Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Sfynx from Impatience. Sfynx is a 1 to 4 player puzzle game that, despite the 1 to 4 players on the box, I think this is primarily a 1 player puzzle game that could theoretically be played with 3 more players. The general idea of this game is you are trying to solve for a puzzle, or more specifically for a sequence of 9 puzzles. This over here is an example of a puzzle. When you look at this tile over here, if you can get this pattern of these 3, which are here, then here, then here. So you can get these 3 tiles, if they can either be in a row to the right, meaning going left to right, or top to bottom, then you would fulfill this puzzle. And you're trying to do that 9 times. That's all you're trying to do. Now, obviously, there's more going on here. How do you get that to happen? Although I should add one more qualifier, which is the tiles have to be on their light side. They have to no longer be cursed, so I'd have to go ahead and flip all 3 of these. Nope, no, this one's already flipped. I have to flip these 2 tiles and orient them correctly in order to fulfill that puzzle. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to do it 9 times. If you're able to do it 9 times before the game time runs out, then you win the game. If you're not, then you lose the game instead. And you have 12 rounds to do this. 12 turns divided up however many players. So if you have, 1 player, you have 12 turns. If you have 2 players, then you each have 6 turns, taking turns back and forth, although you're basically all operating as a cooperative experience in this shared game, which means, again, it could be done as a multiplayer experience, but ultimately that's the equivalent of you alternating turns, putting puzzle pieces into the grid. If you're here for that shared experience, and that's great, then fine, but there's not like a lot of unique player agency going on here. It's just trying to solve a puzzle together. To that end, what you're going to try to do is you're going to utilize these special action tiles, as well as these basic action tiles every single round in order to take your turn. A turn, meaning one of your 12 turns, as tracked by this over here, one of your 12 turns consists of using these tiles, your basic action tiles. You have 1 of each of them, or you have 2 of the same exact tile, and you can either flip a tile to its non-cursed side, or you can move a tile in an orthogonal direction, and specifically moving a tile means swapping 2 tiles. And so, for example, we're actually going to go ahead and solve the first puzzle for you, so you can see how this would play out. I should note, you start the game off, although there are difficulty modifications, you do start the game off with this pattern of these X's unrevealed, and you also get tons of cards. You can see over here I'm playing with a 4, 2, and a 1. That's going to be different decks of cards that determine the difficulty level. I think there's like 8 levels of difficulty, depending on the difficulty decks you choose. You're going to choose 3 decks, and then have varied cards from those decks, so you never know what you're getting, and then mix them all together in one cohesive pile. So, let's go ahead and take a turn, walk you through this, and then talk about our thoughts on the game, or my thoughts. There's no our thoughts here. So on my turn, I'm going to go ahead and start. This is actually a very simple puzzle. I'm going to start with this one over here. This one over here involves me. I'm going to flip this like so. So that's going to let me swap these 2. So I'm doing a basic swapping action. Then I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing with this one over here, swapping those 2 over there. And then boom, there we go. I've gone ahead. Ooh, you know what? I'm actually going to change my mind on that. I'm going to show you a different rule. So this would fulfill this puzzle because we have 1, 2, 3, which is 1, 2, 3. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a different rule instead. Instead of swapping those, I'm actually going to take the time to reveal a tile and stop it from being cursed. So I'm going to go ahead and reveal the Sfynx. And if you're like, Alex, that doesn't seem to help you right now, it's great for the long term. What are you doing right now? Well, Sfynxes can be used in puzzles as wilds, limited to 1 Sfynx per puzzle, except for puzzles that have this little symbol on them, in which case you cannot use them. Which means by doing that, instead of getting the inefficiency of just moving a tile, I managed to uncurse a tile, which will make it useful for other puzzles, and this is still solved because this does not have the limiting factor, and there's only 1 of them per puzzle. So there you go, I'm done. I've now used 2 basic actions. I can still use an action from the advanced actions. We'll talk more about that in a second, and then I'll go ahead and solve that puzzle. When you solve the puzzle, you're going to take the card, you're going to go ahead and take a reward card. So I'm going to go ahead and take this reward card. This lets me swap any 2 tiles anywhere. I can save this, you can have up to 3 of them stored, and I'm going to use that at a later point whenever I think it could be useful. And then we'll go ahead and reveal the new puzzle card over here, see what we got. This one is currently over here, there's somewhere here, there's here, and then here. So these 3 comprise that puzzle, which is not the easiest one to do, but let's see if we can make this work. And also, I should note, it doesn't require, we could use the Sfynx in this, so we may have more tools at our disposal than I initially thought. So let's see the fastest way we can go ahead and do this. I think we can do this. We can do 2 in a single turn. We can have a good starting first turn, although the game does get harder. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this tile over here to swap this in. Will this work actually? No, I don't know if I can do it in 1 turn. I don't know if I can. We need this as the last one, which can go under here. So we can set ourselves up for it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and swap this with this tile over here. Nope, with this tile over here. No, I did this wrong. Let's see. Yeah, with this tile over here. Okay, we're going to swap. Am I doing this right? 1 second. I need to go, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna stop, I'm gonna not use this right now because that could be useful. I'm gonna go ahead and uncurse 2 tiles. So I'm gonna uncurse this tile over here and uncurse that one. These 2 tiles are now available and this is gone. That's gonna be my turn. The board's gonna take their turn. They're gonna flip over this top tile. And right now we're gonna go ahead and curse tiles equal to the round. So 1, 2, 3, or 4 are the 4 rounds you have. So we're gonna go ahead and curse 1 tile. I'm gonna go ahead and look and see something that's not on any cards. This one over here, no, this one is not any cards. I'm gonna go ahead and curse that one, turning it face down. So you can see the game's gonna slowly be working against you as you go. It's back to my turn. I'm gonna go ahead and flip these 2 tiles back up, and I can't use this one. This will stay face down until we've gone through 3 turns. So every cycle, you're gonna use 3 of the 4 special abilities. And now I am trying to get this to work its way around, which can I do it in the fastest way? What's the fastest way I can do this? This one over here is over here. If I try to go ahead and shift that 1, 2, we need to get this below that, this up there, or we could use this over here. That's actually not bad. So what I might do over here is I'm going to go ahead and use, let's say, this tile to go ahead and flip this like so, okay? Then I'm going to go ahead and use, is this going to work? I guess it will work. Maybe, no, I don't know if it will. I don't know if it will. Then I'll go ahead and use this tile, let's say. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and make it, I'm going to do a fast version of this just for the sake of doing this over here. We're going to use this as my special ability to go ahead and swap this with that one over there. And then we'll go ahead and use this ability to go ahead and swap this with this over here, which by the way, I probably wouldn't do normally because I'd save this for a harsher situation, but I'm casting the special card and then boom, we've now achieved this puzzle. There we go. We still have 1 action left. I'll go ahead and use it to, well, let's see what card comes out over here. We have this card over here, which is going to be 1, and then 2, and then somewhere else is going to be the 3rd. Where's that? Up there, over there. And so I'll go ahead and use this, and I'll just go ahead and flip this one over face down because we'll probably need that sooner or later. Why did I just do that one? Not that one. We'll flip this one face down. I'll go flip up, face up, and we'll need that sooner or later. That's the basic cycle. You're going to keep taking your turns. Every time you take a turn, you're going to go ahead and do the things that are good for you. Then the board's going to do things that are good for the board or bad for you, which usually involve flipping tiles face down back to their curse eye. Often it involves getting rid of some of these cards. So you're going to get rid of certain cards. Well, this is on the end game side over here. But you're going to get rid of some of these cards, putting them below the deck, and then you can go ahead and shift this over, meaning effectively you have to always be aware that the leftmost cards in the pile may actually be going away, and you'll have to figure out a way to, all that work you put into them, it might be wasted. You want to work on the right or more ones first, because you have more time with those before they might go away. And then sometimes you also have tiles that will go ahead and have you moving these rows fully to the other side. So you might have one that says, oh, every row with the Sfynx, you're going to move it to the left, which means the entire row, anything with the Sfynx in it, will shift to the left, and you're going to go ahead and completely reposition the board, and that's going to probably get very much in your way, although sometimes you can use that towards your advantage. That's the basic idea. You're trying to solve for 9 different puzzles. The difficulty level of the game is going to be based on the starting setup as well as in the cards you shuffle together to give you your puzzle. And you're trying to do that within 12 turns while the game tries to get in your way. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into the review, starting off with ease of play. Ease of play on this is excellent. The rulebook is like a few pages long. It only takes a page or 2 to understand what's going on, and then past that, it's just semantic details and, you know, a reference sheet on the back of the rulebook over here just tells you all the abilities, which, by the way, is a great reference sheet. It gives you everything you need over here. I should also note that you do have variable action tiles. These tiles over here are going to be variable, so you can have different ones you can swap in and out. So the basic actions available to you in a game might shift up game to game. So you have that variety as well as the order of the rewards that come out, and of course the setup, the puzzle cards you're using, the order of the enemy tiles and taking their turns. So a lot of general variety to the core experience. As far as game time, comes in at anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes, I'd say. It really depends on how much time you try to take to analyze it, as well as the more difficult puzzles. I think you can probably knock out the easier levels in like 20, maybe 20 minutes, but I'd say it's probably closer to 30 to 45 minutes. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like, which is this is a first of all, it's a great looking puzzle. I should to start off with the fact that the overall, I like the art in general. Sometimes you do spend a little time trying to find things. There is some colors that will help you find things a little quicker. So looking for a red one, it'll be here, here, or here, or here over here. We have this fourth one. So you do find things generally quickly enough, but it is sometimes the information overload can be a bit present in terms of you're trying to track, possibly sometimes up to 12 different tiles in the game, and it's not always immediately obvious, but the overall art aesthetic of the game is pretty solid, and this game just gives you a puzzle to solve. This is a puzzle game, make no mistake. It's a game about trying to fulfill certain criteria and doing so as efficiently as possible with your actions while the game tries to take actions to get in your way. And so it's all about trying to use the resources at your disposal. You have limited resources, you have limited time, and you're trying to plan your way through several sequences of puzzles puzzles, because you're not just looking at, well, this puzzle, you're looking at these 3 puzzles and trying to say, well, between these, you know, I might need certain tiles multiple times between them. Like, I need these 2 face up, so I should really prioritize getting that in play, and these 2 actually need to be next to each other, so I can try to work my way towards both those at once. And even when a puzzle gets shoved to the bottom of the deck, you still have the knowledge that that is a general setup that you're working towards. Also, you have the knowledge of the things that are going to get in your way, because you know that at any given point in the game, as you go through these tiles, you're going to have rows shifting left and right and up and down based on where the Sfynxes are. You can use that to really take advantage of knowledge of how tiles are going to move around the board and set yourself up for those. Now, granted, you don't know when those are coming, so it is a bit of a gamble, especially if one of them is very much in the late game, but you can work with a degree of knowledge of the kinds of things that are going to get in your way to be able to work your way past those things. There's a variety of difficulty levels in the game that really let you tailor it towards as simple as possible, and I don't think the simpler game, like the simplest way you can play this game, is still going to feel like a challenge, but you probably have it. But then as you ramp it up, it'll definitely be a challenge and give you a very difficult puzzle to try to solve, where you're really working against the clock, you're working against the enemy, you're working with limited time, with limited resources, limited actions, and trying to figure out the best way to move things around to be able to solve past the bad things that the game is going to throw at you. As far as what I don't like in the game, first of all, it's chaos if you lose a tile that you were working on. Meaning a lot of the bad things in the game, I feel you can kind of semi-plan around. Not with perfect knowledge, make no mistake. Sometimes you might need 2 turns for a puzzle, and if that Sfynx movement tile comes out turn 2, you can find yourself completely chaotically at odds with how to solve the puzzle. And then sometimes you're going to be losing your leftmost cards over here, because the deck is going to have you shove 1 or 2 cards sometimes even 3 cards underneath the deck to be able to you can no longer work on those puzzles, you'll have to save them for later instead. And it's incredibly challenging, but the bigger problem for me is that it kind of means that when I'm looking at 3 cards over here, I almost never touch this card. Like, I kind of mentally take into account, if I can solve it in 1 turn, sure, but this card is never a card I want to be working on across 2 turns, because there's too many cards that will take that card and get rid of it, and so it means I'm working with less options. I'm working with this if I can solve it this turn, this if I can solve it at all, and this if I can solve it and be this turn or next, I'll take the risk. And that just limits your possibilities in the game to a small extent because of the chaos that can happen. As much as the chaos in general is a good thing, you need things working against you for this to be a game that's actually challenging. Sometimes the chaos stops you from wanting to work on things that you can't do right away, and so that is a challenge over there. As far as I can see others not liking, this is basically just a puzzle game. You're moving things around, you're trying to fill objectives, it very much plays like a solo experience, and speaking of a solo experience, like I said already, this advertises itself as a 1 to 4 player game. I have no interest, I have not, just for full clarity, I have not played this at more than 1 player. This is the kind of game, I can tell from even just diving through the first time, it's the kind of game that I don't mind playing it, maybe as a 2-player game with maybe with my daughter, maybe with a friend, diving into it, but it would feel like we're both tackling the same thing at the same time. No differently than you can control the same character pawn in Pandemic and just make decisions together. That's what this kind of feels like when you're going to dive into a multiplayer experience. So if you are playing this with the expectation that's going to give you a multiplayer experience, I would say it technically does so, but probably falls short in that capacity. It's going to feel like a solo game no matter how many players are playing through the game. As far as final thoughts on Sfynx, I like this game. I think it's a fun little solo puzzle, and it gives you different difficulty levels to keep you challenged and engaged. This is coming to you from Impatience, who's famous for the Oniverse series of games. There's a series of solo puzzles, although they have 2-player modes, but a series of puzzles that are all like solo little puzzles that augment and level up and give you more and more things, and it's a series I've always enjoyed, and this very much feels like it belongs in that universe. This is a game that, and it's not technically in the Oniverse, it's just from the same publisher, but it does give you that rewarding puzzle of how to manipulate things using certain tools and resources and abilities, and trying to do so better than the things that the game is throwing at you. To me, this is a 4 out of 5. I should give the caveat that this kind of game experience, I often play these kinds of games until I feel I've played them out. This is not, to me, a forever game. Probably not. It's the kind of game where I want to continuously ramp up the difficulty levels. Maybe it's a fun thing to show to other people, and then eventually, over time, I'll get to a point where I think I've seen enough of it. These types of games do have a limited exposure because you're mostly just playing against the game, and once that challenge stops being as compelling, it's the kind of thing you can move on from. As far as recommendations, although before recommendations I should talk about does this game innovate in any way? A new section I'm adding to my reviews if you're watching this video for the first time. Well, you're probably watching this video for the first time. I can't imagine you watching it for the second time, but if you are, thanks, I guess. But if you're watching this video and you watch my channel, I'm adding a new section to my reviews of Does It Innovate? Just talking about whether a game does something new. And as far as does this game innovate, does it add anything new to the genre? I don't think it does anything new on its own, although most games won't. Most games are going to give you a combination of mechanics that all work well together. There are plenty of other games that are going to give you tile swapping, moving things around, trying to fulfill certain patterns, and there are games that do it solo as well. The combination of things are a nice cohesive thing that all works together as far as giving you the timer of 12 turns, the puzzles that we're working towards, the vast variety of difficulty levels. All of these combine nicely to give you something that definitely feels different within the space, but there's nothing here that's specifically new on its own. And speaking of which, as far as recommendations for other games, we're going to be talking about two of those games that have elements that this game has. First of all, Cassion from the same publisher. I believe it's pronounced Cassion. It looks like Castellion, but I think it's Cassion. But Cassion, part of the Oniverse series, is going to have lots of tile maneuvering and tile manipulation in a similar, not similar puzzle, very, very different execution of the puzzle, but similar kind of solo puzzle, making things line up kind of game. And then if you're looking for a game that very much feels similar as far as the pattern matching you're going for, but in much more of a multiplayer experience, a competitive multiplayer experience, check out Umbrella from Pandasaurus Games. Definitely going to hit those same vibes as far as what the game does. I think Umbrella is actually less variable than this one is, but it does give you that competitive edge, which makes it a totally different game. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.